All right, what's up, world? I go by the name of Jabari. You know what time it is. It's another Words with Friends podcast. Get the Monday started off right. And for those that don't know, you can now support the Words with Friends podcast on Patreon.com. If you're getting value from it, if you're enjoying the guests that I'm having on every single week, every Monday we do this. You can support the podcast with a tip for as little as $1. And that just ensures that I can keep it going, that I can keep bringing you guys new, fresh perspectives of entrepreneurship, creativity, all the above. So go to patreon.com/Jabari, patreon.com/Jabari, and leave a tip for the Words with Friends podcast. But without further ado, I have a legend in the game, a serious legend in the game, a vet, somebody who has been just influential in hip-hop culture, somebody that I've looked up to for a while. And, man, it gives me great pleasure to introduce Elliott Wilson.
Yes,
what's
sir.
up? Good brother.
Jabari, what's up, baby?
Man,
Thank you for the intro, man. I appreciate that.
No, that doesn't even...
And I don't get no award for that.
It doesn't even do it justice, man. Dude, man, you've... absolutely. Yeah. You've done so much in the game, man. So let people know. Usually when I started off, I ask people, you know, how they introduce themselves. So I want you to not only introduce yourself and what you do, what your title is currently, but where you came from and all the stuff that you've done, you know, starting from ego.
We have enough tape? You got enough tape? You know, I'm old, man. Shit, I'm 43.
I want to hear about it all, man. So you got to get
kindergarten with Stella.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I got that first grade math test that didn't go right, so I had to go left. I'm Elliott Wilson. I'm from rapradar.com. That's my website. Very influential hip-hop website. I started in 2009. I do this interview series called The Truth for Jay-Z's Life and Times YouTube channel. I do this live interview series called Crown, which is really taking off. And I'm starting this new Kickstarter with my wife called Hardcover for a magazine that we're trying to build, being powered by the people. And it goes back for me since 1992. I'm from Queens. Got into the hip-hop game doing an independent magazine, so it's kind of full circle with the whole hardcover thing, because I wrote the first 92 clips I was writing for this hip-hop newspaper in New York called Beatdown. It was competing with Rap Sheet back then about which is the official hip-hop newspaper. And then 2 years later, me and Sasha Jenkins started Ego Trip, and that was a very celebrated independent magazine that combined hip-hop culture, rock culture, skateboarding, graffiti, the whole youth culture, and the way the culture was moving. And now, you know, we've been proven right. You know, Sasha definitely had that vision and helped push me to see it, and it's great to see it being validated. And then I got a job at The Source in '96 to be the music editor. That was my dream job. I wanted to hold the mics. I wanted every rap album first. I wanted to give the mics out and be in control of what, you know, the barbershops were saying and representing that for the culture. So I did that for 2 years. And then in '98, worked hard on the Ego Trip book of rap lists, which we did, one of the best books on hip-hop if you haven't heard about it. It's kind of pre-internet, taking all the history, putting in these little factoids and little lists, and you know, a lot of internet culture I think was inspired by that, or it's moved towards that way. And then '99, best known for taking over Double XL, being editor-in-chief there for a long ass time. '99 to 2008, called myself Yo Nigga. Said I wanted to kill The Source, all that kind of crazy stuff. Eminem, Dr. Dre, 50 Cent, Benzino, Ja Rule, Murder Inc. You know, it's in the history books. And then, you know, like I said, now just moving towards more the digital age in terms of the Rap Radar and the things I'm doing, but now going back to print and trying to come up with an idea with my wife, Danielle Smith. She's pretty accomplished herself. And Hardcover, we want to kind of change the landscape and show that a printed product, if it's produced of high quality, will definitely stand out and definitely draw, you know, a movement behind it that hopefully will lead to advertising and money being put into it. And I thought it was innovative for us to do it through Kickstarter, to just see the demand of the people, connect to the people, and have them be a part of building something.
Yeah,
you know?
man. You know, it's so interesting to me. I feel like so many of these things that you know, people once said were dead, like, you know, print, or even like what we're doing right now, right? Like a podcast is essentially like radio for everybody, right? So it's now
content.
like, you know,
content,
yeah, exactly. Yeah. So and it's like people say that, you know, radio is dead, or talk radio especially dead, but podcasts are thriving right now.
Yeah, I think it's just about the content. I mean, you do a quality podcast, and it's about quality and it's about consistency. You know, your work's always done that. Whether you're shooting film or whether you're doing this podcast. And I think that when people say that shit's not hot or it's dead, that means that they're not satisfied with what's out there. It's not what's out there isn't good enough to them for whatever reason. Mm-hmm. They're not connecting to it. They don't go to the newsstand and see these magazines and get that same spark in the eye that I used to have, and go to Hudson News and spend $100 on magazines. It's rare now because you look at the landscape, it's just not that inspiring. So when it stops being inspiring and things aren't going good, then it's easy to say it's over, it's dead, everybody's doing this, blah, blah, blah. But, print does service. Print is still the tangible, it's still something you want to hold, something that's worthy. But nowadays, it has to be a product that feels like it's something. And I think the model also of coming out like 10, 12 times a year doesn't work. I think it's back to kind of what I was doing Ego Trip, that when it's ready, it's time to come out and it's going to impact people, and then when it's time to do another one and we can get the funds together, we do another one. And then, like Ego Trip doing that for like a course of like 4 or 5 years, we only did 13 issues, but that opened us up to so many other opportunities. And I think that's what's the great thing about hardcover too. On one end, me and my wife are just building a magazine, book-shaped magazine, something innovative in terms of the production of it and how it's going to look and the quality of the writing and photography. But I think it also opens up even more doors for us. I think that, we're creators, so we create. I think our people aren't really celebrated for that either. Like, we're fucking courageous creatives, like someone like you, like your story. And I think the internet culture, we have our moments of getting our props, but because it's so fast and it's so, who's really putting it in the right perspective? So I think that's where print still kind of comes in.
Absolutely. And it's one thing, man, like people still value seeing something like traditional, right? So it's like, if you're in a magazine and you take a picture of that magazine and you post it on an Instagram or something like that, people are like, oh, he's in a magazine. You know what I mean? It's like, or the same thing with a billboard, man. Same thing.
It's taking
television.
It and doing it in new, innovative ways. Exactly. You know what I mean? And nowadays, if you can't Google it, it didn't exist. I've been like, in the past, scanning old articles I've done just so now it's on the internet, put it on my Tumblr, so it's on the record that it existed. Because if it's not Googleable or whatever the fuck the word is, it doesn't exist. So it's about that innovation. I think people are going to get hardcover and then they're going to Instagram that they have it. I think they may rip a page out and put it on their wall the way we would rip up fucking, like Biggie said, word up posters and shit, put it on the wall. And seek that inspiration. I think that you share tangible. I think that, it's one interesting thing too is I think that when people look at the, because Kickstarter is built off different pledge goals. Like there's a certain amount where you secure a copy of the book that you'll get it. And then there's one where it's like you'll get the book, but you'll also get like drafts of things we worked on, like sketches of things. And a lot of people are building on that. Like people want to be part of creation. They want to see, your rough notes on stuff you did with Macklemore. Like they want to see the process. Like I think that the audience now is so informed. They want to be connected to that. And I think they want to see the outtakes. Like they want to see all the photos of the Nicki Minaj shoot. Like they don't want to just see the 4 photos at the end of the shows. Like they want to be part of the process. And I think that's what also made me and Danielle feel like hardcover could work, because we're literally creating a magazine in front of you. We're building it together. The people are the publisher. And we're gonna raise this amount of money, and if we get this amount, we can do this many copies and pay people and build something right in front of you. So I think that it's definitely you hope to have that point where you create something tangible that is worthy. And I think a lot of times now with magazines too, like the only value now is if you're on the cover of the magazine, and we're trying to be against that too. Like we're trying to make sure that it's just about the quality of hardcover. Like if you believe in hardcover is a cover story in terms of like the quality. Where now artists still want covers of magazines, but they don't respect the magazines that they're doing stories.
They exactly.
They want that look, and then they do the look with every other magazine, and they do every interview, and they kind of marginalize media because they do, because we don't sell records like we used to. They do everything, but you should be selective. Like you should do the podcasters that are worthy. You should do the radio stations that are worthy. I think you gain more for being more selective, and I think sometimes now they try to lump us all in together. So it's a challenge for creatives like me and you to do innovative work and to stand out and be like, no, when I do something, it's going to be a different level of quality than this press day you did. I used to hate press days. I don't
you hate press day. You're in line. Oh my god.
Fuck your press day, fam.
This person is. It's like you might be 3rd or 4th. Man, the artist is burnt out.
They wrapping you up like this and shit.
Exactly.
I'm doing the finger side.
Man, it's
wrapping
terrible.
the finger upside.
A press day is horrific.
Now you hope you get your stripes up so you don't have to be the fucking press day. You know what I mean? Out there naked as a freak. freelancing. You have to get your weight up, so you ain't got to be out there. You know what I'm saying? Get out the field, son.
Yeah, man.
Get behind the desk or a cubicle.
I want to talk more about hardcore, but I also want to know a little bit about like how did you grow up, man? Like, you know, what was growing up in Queens like for you, and was it something that you knew that you wanted to be on this end of hip hop, you know, from a journalistic documenting perspective early on?
I think that, well, my I'm Elliott Jesse Wilson Jr. My dad is Elliott Jesse Wilson Sr. So a lot of times, you know, a lot of pressure on the first son, the eldest son, to be like his pops or live out his pop's dreams. My pop's dreams for me was to be fucking shortstop for the New York Yankees. Like, I was supposed to be Derek Jeter and shit like this. Mixed boys playing fucking Gold Glove, captain of the Yankees. So, you know, I played baseball. I played baseball at a young age. I could hit a baseball when I was like 4 or 5 or some shit. Like, you know, I was good, but I wasn't great. And then as I got older, you know, I stopped losing as much interest in it, the dedication it takes, like getting up Saturday morning and practicing at 7 a.m. I just stopped wanting to do the shit. And then, you know, I loved sports writing. I used to read a lot of like Dick Young and all these other. I was a big fan of Howard Cosell. I used to get excited by the athletes and the game itself, and then also the process behind it, the media behind it.
Gotcha.
Not really knowing what it was, but just being attracted to powerful voices like Warner Wolf or like other sportscasters and stuff like that. So then I thought, okay, maybe I could be a sports writer. Like, you know, maybe I could do that. That could be something interesting and keep me near sports. And I don't want to be the player, but document it. And then, you know, music was always in the backdrop. You know, I grew up. My mother was like, she was into more black music, like soul. She's Ecuadorian and Greek, and she would listen to like soul shit, like Stylistics and that shit. And my pop's black man, African American from Georgia, he would listen to like Joe Cocker and fucking rock shit. Like, he gave up. He liked doo-wop soul, and then he didn't like the funk era, so he went right to rock.
Okay.
So I grew up listening to all types of music, and then I realized with hip hop takes from everything. One minute I'm listening to Chic Good Times, and then it becomes Rapper's Delight, and I'm 8 years old. And I just remember the impact that record had. But for me, it was obviously Run DMC, because I'm from Queens. So to see these guys, LL Cool J, Run DMC, guys that don't live too far from where I grew up, conquering the world. Like, this thing that we loved was becoming this national thing. Like, this was like the world was recognizing it. There's a kid in Atlanta, there's a kid in Miami, there's a kid in LA that loves this culture like I do. So, you know, and then, you know, I saw The Source emerge, and The Source was the first magazine to really put themselves out there with the challenge of really trying to be the documentation of the nationwide, worldwide culture. So I always liked The Source and supported it when it first came out, like late 80s, early 90s. And like I said, that was my dream, to have that job eventually, once I realized that I could write about this. I could write about this music that I love, this culture, you know. And then when I didn't get on with those magazines in the beginning, like I said, I met Sasha Jenkins, and he showed me that you can make your own thing. Like, you don't need the validation from others. Like, he had started the graffiti magazine in high school. So I was like, how do you do your own magazine? You go to a printer. How do you go to a printer? Like, how do we distribute it? You know, like, I learned the whole business and entrepreneurship from that experience. And, you know, it helps me now. It helps me how I approach everything. Because even when I approach jobs I approach it more from an entrepreneurial perspective.
Yeah, you know what's so crazy, man, is like, that's something that a lot of people, what I'm starting to realize, and that I did this, I think, subconsciously, but it's like you said, even if you're a freelancer, even if you're an employee, you can still think like an entrepreneur.
Yes,
and
sir.
take things and say, okay, well, you know, like when I was working at Capitol Records, man, I was doing all the digital video there, but nobody had my job before, and so I was basically like running a production studio in the record label, and I was dealing with budgets, I was hiring people, I was doing all this stuff, and I was like, yo, this is my own business. But it's
not called the Jabari Agency, but you're running it that way.
Exactly. And so then when I left, and I'm able to take those skills with me to my own projects or whatever.
And I still had to learn that, because even with XXL, like after, you know, the things went down with that double XL and the controversy behind that, it's like I had to figure out, okay, well, what am I going to do next? Like, I had this job for 9 years, like, you know, what's next for me? What's the right move? You know, do I do television? Do I go back to print? Do I do a website? Like, what's the right move? And then I was like, you know, how do I get people to believe in me again? And I realized that people was like, yo, you know, I really respect the work you did. I would get so much love and accolades of like people who like had read me from like years. Like if you were like 13 and you like read XXL, and then up to your high school, college years, so you may have read me for like 9 years straight, or read my editorials, and realize how you're touching people. And I'm like, wait a minute, you know, in YN and this editorial thing, it's like I self-branded myself within that system. So some people loved YN They believed in my vision, and that's why they bought Double XL. So that's the same kind of thing. Like, I built something where I built my belief and presented myself. So your belief in me is why you believed in the product that I produced.
Yeah.
So I realized that there's that self-branding, and like I walked away feeling like, well, I'm still YN. Like, so if I build a new platforms and I dedicate myself to making sure I'm connected to what's going on in the culture, and try to, connect to the things that are out there. And if I don't understand it or don't connect to it, at least try to understand why it's working. Everything isn't for me. I'm not going to dick ride and like everything that's out, but, know what I do like and know what I don't, and really connect to the new generation and have that exchange. That's what it comes with. And that is self-branding, because at the end of the day, that's still a belief in yourself and how you approach things. And I think that's what I've carried forth as a lesson from each step that I've had in my career.
See, one thing, Elliott, though, what makes you different, man, than a lot of people is that you can see what is working within the landscape in terms of contemporary times, and then adapt how you want to tell your story, whether it's, it all is a form of journalism, right? So,
yeah.
But like, even like, I remember when you launched Rap Radar, and I was like, okay, like, this is something where like these guys are
Good luck with that, bro.
Like, no. Like, what I respected so much about it was that, like, the consistency, and like it was at a time when like bloggers weren't blogging 24/7.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? But you guys were.
Yeah,
it was all around the clock.
That's really was the mentality.
You know
I was like, I loved SK's working now, right? I loved what the New Music Cartel sites were doing, but I realized that like we lived in a culture where it was like, okay, well, how am I gonna make Rap Radar distinguishable and different from what these other sites are? They're already like, okay, this is the journalism guy, the magazine guy. Now he's in our arena. Some were receptive, some were shady. You deal with that because obviously it's competition. So, but what I felt was, okay, well, I need an office, I need structure, I need to approach it like a job. And like a lot of times in our culture, you'd have a thing where it's like people were documenting it, but they didn't approach it with like a work-like mentality. I felt like so like a lot of times in the culture, like especially back then, it'd be like artists being in the studio at 2 a.m. right. Hyped up, high, smoking, made a song. This sounds dope. Let it out on the internet, like 3 a.m. So you wake up in the morning and the site to have the song up, and already motherfuckers will be in the comment section talk about some song that leaked at 3 o'clock in the morning. Yeah. And I'm like, okay, I can't compete with that, but I'm gonna approach it like this. I'm gonna try to go to sleep from midnight and get up before everybody. Get up like 5 a.m. Get up like with the sun. Approach it like a job. And if I lose that and I realize that the midnight next day is the next day's traffic. So you really don't really win anything business-wise by being the hottest site at 1 a.m. to 4 a.m. because that's really just the next day. So I was like, let's get some sleep. And I really had this vision of like, and it didn't go the way it was. It was like, me and Pete are going to be at the office at like 7 a.m., 8 a.m., and we're going to get like 60 posts up before noon. And, and so at least there was the craziness of having that vision of like, that's how we're going to approach it, and we're going to conquer the day. And like people are going to wake up, and if we're on it first, people are going to start to go to us because they'll be like, yo, Rap Radar had that up 2 hours ago. Like that was very much that part of that culture where everything was about first, and who can get it up first. And that's really what I did. I tried to just approach it like a job and be like dominant during the day and then slow down a little in the evening and then just tuck it in. And like if it pops off at midnight, take that L. If it's 12:30 in the morning, that's a conversation. I'm going to get to it in the morning, and I'm going to control everything else that's going on that day. So that's really how we decided to approach it. And it was also just to make sure also that we was going to be like a mainstream kind of blog, that we weren't going to put every underground cat on. We were going to like more favor the bigger guys in the culture, because I felt like most of these sites were underground, but then they would always still post the bigger artists. And then it became, to me, inconsistent, because it's like, Troy Ave back then was still standing next. And I love Troy now, but Troy had a lot of growth to have. Yep. But even Troy back then, if you go to a site, Troy's right next to Eminem. So it's like all these artists think they're on the same level. And like you see the growth now Troy Ave's had, Action Bronson had. So I felt like with Rap Radar, we're kind of giving you that distance where it's like now you're going to see Troy Ave on Rap Radar every day, and it means something. He's on Summer Jam, and he's in the freshman cover. It's like, so if we're a little more selective and we just don't draw everything up and try to do everything that's against, like, it's almost the anti-traffic thing, because you're supposed to just flood your shit and pictorials and everything, and it was just like, let's just try to keep it a certain standard and the audience will come. And I was like, and it was also, to me, my business strategy was totally different, where I still don't give a fuck about what, and I shouldn't say this, and Paul probably doesn't like when I say it, I don't care what our traffic is. I don't care what the, situation is, when I was at Double XL, it was the complete opposite. I had every data of how many magazines I sold in Poughkeepsie, and I had fucking every sales number the source did, and did a Busta Rhymes cover in 1999 sell, and I had all these numbers, and everything was like, I was like, I'm taking a totally different, opposite approach to business in terms of how I run Rap Radar. And social media is really the thing that kind of helped us, because it was like, that was the way, like me being first on it early, thanks to my wife Danielle putting me on Twitter and like learning how to use that helped us a lot with the growth of Rap Radar. So a lot of it is also connected to social media and the power of that.
With Rap Radar, with everything. No, man. That's what I'm like. I'm like, oh man, I got so much places to go. Okay. So I wanna talk a little bit about, because a lot of artists tune into this, right? And not just musicians, but like creatives across the board. Being a hip hop journalist and quite honestly the leading hip hop journalist. I mean, you I can't even imagine the
amount of people harassing me.
Yeah, the pitches, the stuff that comes to
these
your
kids,
inbox.
These were nice kids.
The Twitter mentions, like I can't even imagine what happens on your level, man. So like, let's talk about.
It's not that bad, Jabari.
Oh, I mean, it's bad for me sometimes, but like, I'm just like. I
don't tell anybody no. I just don't tell them yes yet.
Yes, exactly. So here's the thing. I always want to give these people, because like you said, they're good. They're good people. Good kids. Artists just trying to make it, but there is a protocol, right, for anything. Yes. And I just want to give these people some insight from the professionals, the people who are really.
Yeah, I feel like if you do respect me, you should realize that I'm not the entry point. Yeah. I'm not the person to put you on. I'm not trying to sign you. I'm not trying to manage you. I'm not the entry point. The culture is your entry point. Like you have to make yourself hot. You have to make yourself
your own fan base.
Yeah, to your fan base and to other sites and other like make me jealous. Like make me like, yo, who's this guy I'm not right? Who's this guy everybody's talking about on Twitter? Like who's this like? Make yourself that. I've never been that. Like if you look at my whole career, like if you connect to me to like even let's say the 50 Cent phenomenon, right? Back then, 50 did it. He did those mixtapes. He did that, and he was the one in demand. Like he built that. And then it was like, we jumped on it, and we was like behind it, but he established it. You see what I'm saying? You have to establish it. Elliott can't make you hot. I can't make you hot. If I put you on Rap Radar every day and nobody knows you, it's going to get no comments. And everyone's going to be like, that's Elliott's artist? Why is Elliott favoring that thing? I can't make something hot. You know what I'm saying? You have to make yourself hot, make the right moves. I'm not the entry point. I did with Rap Radar. Like I said earlier, they position myself to not be that entry point. That we're not the first site to put your shit up. We're probably the site that when we put you shit up, it means something. It means like, okay, now I'm in a bigger stage, that people are paying attention to me. That's the goal. I mean, sometimes we get it right, sometimes we don't, but that's the goal of it. So I think that's what the misconception is. I think that, and then you try to explain it to people, but they're so, young people and young artists have that certain, like, you have to have it, so it annoys me, but I still respect it. Like, it's the Kanye shit where it's just like, you're looking, but you're not really seeing. You're hearing, but you're not really listening. Because you just are so driven by your shit that you can't really connect. And I understand it, so we just got to try to keep it polite, keep it cordial. Yeah. And it's like, at the end of the day, I'm all about prove me wrong. I'm sure, like, again, there's other artists that I didn't mess with, and then now it's like, they'll tell me about it. Like, I remember Dave Free likes to bring up how, like, back in the early days of Rap Radar, I'll give you a good story. So it was the early days of Rap Radar, I had this whole mentality, like, and it was wrong because now you do business in a different way. But back then it was like, okay, I'm the big dog, so I'm in my office, I got my door closed, I don't go out to meet everybody, I don't like having artists up at XXL. Everything's very selective. So when we started Rap Radar, B-Dot's building relationships, so he's having guys come over to the office. So it's like, okay, who are these young rappers, blah, blah. So these are the early days of TDE, so J-Rock's the guy. So J-Rock's up. I like J-Rock, we're chopping it up, blah, blah. And I guess one day they came up and he was with Kendrick, like young K-Dot. And I guess I was in the office and I didn't come out and say hi to K-Dot or come out and say hi to Dave Free that day or come up, blah, blah. And like we were having an argument about something business-wise. He's like, that's because you stay in your office, you didn't come back and say hi. You know what I mean? Like, I fronted on Kendrick. I fronted on everybody. I fronted on Kanye. I told Kanye, you never make Jesus Walks a single. It's never going to work. Like, I'm not right. Like, I'm not the shot caller like that. I'm the shot caller once it gets to a certain point. But I'm not the entry shot caller. I'm not the predictor. Like, I'm not the lottery ball fucking, horoscoper. Like, I'm fucking, like, once it gets there, and I think my energy helps take it further. I think I always talk about 2 Chainz is a great example. When Spend It came out and how we got behind his campaign finally, and he was doing so much work before that. But we really like Spend It, and B-Dot heard the record.
He had that SOB
show. And we jumped with that, And there was so many camp people on stage, so it's like, that's Rap Radar's role, and that's Elliott Wilson's role, and I think that's my extension in other brands that I do. It's still the same thing, It's still the same thing.
What sparked you to do Respect? And let's talk a little about that magazine and.
Well, I resigned now. Like I stepped down, so Daquan Thomas is the new editor.
Okay.
But Daquan's my boy. I know he's going to do a great job. But the original thing was, I guess they approached me in 2010. Jonathan Reingold was associate publisher at XXL when I was there. So we had a good relationship. He had done the magazine, a couple of issues, and he approached me about taking it over, and I was honored. But I was like, I respect the different perspective of the photography and profiling photographers, and I want to keep that, but I also have to have profiles. We have to use me as a journalist and interview artists. In the first issue we did, I was very proud. We did Waka Flocka on the cover, and at that time, Flockavelli was huge, and nobody was giving Waka his props as like the dominant force that he was in the moment in culture. So I was like, we did Waka on the cover. I had a J Electronica story in there. J. Cole was inside, so I did all these great interviews. And I remember that energy of, like, when it came out, like, I don't think we even had Instagram back then, but we had TwitPic, so people would, like, buy the issue in TwitPic and show me they bought it. And I was like, it was just mad inspiring, like, to have that exchange. So I did about maybe 10, 12 issues, put Drake on the cover, gave Macklemore his first hip-hop cover. Like, I'm proud of a lot of things. We did a Black Hippie cover, and then I did the first Black Hippie hip-hop cover. So I'm proud of the work I did there. I just felt like with hardcover it was I couldn't focus on too many things at this point in my career. And my passion was to try to start hardcover with my wife, so it felt like I didn't want to hang on to that situation. So I know it's in good hands with Daquan. But no, I think that Respect's cool because it challenges the challenge is to create a hip hop magazine from a different perspective. And I think that continues to effectively do that. So I'm going to continue to be an advocate for Respect and Jonathan Reingold and Music and Art. And like I said, Daquan Thomas is a good friend.
As somebody that does interviews all the time, I have it's sort of like a two-sided question. One is, when do you walk away from an interview knowing that was just an amazing interview, and that was, you know what I mean, like that, that this is something that people are gonna enjoy and respect,
and when it's horrible too.
That wasn't the second side,
the balance of it. No, I think one of my more famous ones. I definitely had those moments in the recent years. I'd say the Jay-Z Truth.
Oh, that was amazing.
Yeah, thank you, brother.
He got a lot of flack in that interview too.
Yeah, I knew this. We'll see that. I think it's a combination, as you know. So to kind of walk you through it, obviously, my approach is like, okay. Actually, it was the first time I interviewed Jay-Z in 5 years. I did a Vibe cover story that my wife assigned me. Hardcover, early days, I guess. She assigned me the cover story to do Vibe. This was the 2008, so the year after XXL, where I was kind of before I started launching Rap Radar. So I did a Jay story. Me and Jay got cool through the years. I was supposed to do a book on him. I scrapped the book. We become good friends. But still have that professional respect. But I think because of that, he was very wary of wanting to be behind, me interview him, because now we're cool. It's like, it's weird. So it's like we have been, hadn't interviewed him in 5 years. And I finally convinced him to do it, and he agreed to do it at Yankee Stadium. I'm like, oh my God, this is huge, this is ridiculous, like, this is crazy. And then, so I do my research on it, and I'm trying to, I'm looking at the Zane Lowe interviews, and I'm mad competitive, and I'm looking at everything else he did. I was like, okay, well, what do I ask him, And my thing is, my secret really is I try to really, like, take it back to the old school of, like, I really listen to the album. Like, I really, even if I don't like the album, I like Magna Carta, but even if I don't like an album, I really will sit with the content a lot and sit with it and try to hear different lyrics in it. And, go to Rap Genius and see what they got right about it and what they got wrong, and listen again and listen to production and really try to connect to the music. And I came away where I felt like, okay, knowing Jay, there's songs like Nickels and Dimes on the album, which is like one of the last songs, and La Familia and songs like that critics aren't really giving those records props. But knowing Jay, I know those records are very personal to him, things that he's passionate about. So I'm like, no one's going to ask him about that comment in Belafonte and so I knew I wanted to ask him that stuff, hoping that nobody had really would ask him it yet. So I knew I was coming in with that approach and ask him that. But then also, obviously Trayvon Martin was big at the time in terms of like the verdict that just came in with George Zimmerman. I mean, it's big forever, R.I.P. Trayvon. But I mean, the verdict itself had just everybody was still reeling from the craziness of that. And President Obama had spoke about it that same afternoon. So the timing was perfect to find a way to ask Jay about it. So all those different elements is playing in my mind. So I have to. If you watch the tape, I print my questions out, so I have an idea of a sketch of how I'd like the interview to go. And as you know, it rarely goes that way. It's more just kind of a reminder of where. So I never even really got a chance to look at the paper because we just started going and talking, and then it started to become this thing where we got the Belafonte thing, and he made the controversial comment, which he says on the song, that my presence is charity. He reiterates it. Mm-hmm. He talks about Trayvon, George Zimmerman. So when he talks about George Zimmerman being a mall cop, and he really gets into his disgust of that situation and his anger, I really kind of zoned out in the moment in it, and I'm like, this is fucking history. This is going to be everywhere. Yeah. Like, I'm in the moment, and I'm just like, I see CNN, and it made CNN. Like, I saw it in that moment, and I'm lost in it. And then, like, I'm amazed by it, and my respect for him continues to grow, and I'm lost in it, but I'm still doing my job. So then at a certain point, you just start to feel like you're getting more towards the interview. His time is limited. I gotta get some kind of blue question in, some kind of Beyonce question in. So you watch the interview, it's like the fatherhood and Beyonce at the end. Got it in, boom. Like I like what do I have to at least get in? And you know how it is, Jabari. You always feel like there's something you forgot to ask because you didn't go, and it beats you up inside. And you're just like, how the fuck did I not ask him about that? I had it written down. I didn't think about it. Blah 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 blah. But yeah, that's really what it was. Like I knew I was gonna hit that Belafonte point. The Trayvon Martin case was heavy on all of our minds and our hearts. And then I just got Blue and B in at the end, and I just felt special. And then Drake's thing was crazy because it's, to me, it's still people's favorite crown. I think the Lil Wayne crown is pretty strong too.
Yeah,
but,
the Lil Wayne crown to me was like you just never see Lil Wayne talking, really.
Yeah, and I was amazed by that. I think that's my best exchange. It's the best. I think it's the best pure interview, but I think Drake's actual performance. And it's funny because I talk about performances now, like nowadays in our culture, right? Like you ain't got the answer, Sway. If Kanye blacks out, and I respect the Sway. I'm not trying to diss Sway, but I'm just saying a lot of times now artists, if they act up in the interview, like everybody talks about the interview, but was it a great interview?
Was it a great interview?
Was it a performance, or was it like? And I think Sway had a real exchange with Kanye, so that was a really good interview. But I thought with Zane Lowe, he was just kind of talking at Zane Lowe, or just pushing his agenda on a lot of the other radio interviews that he did. So it's like
he wasn't even answering questions. With Zane Lowe.
Exactly.
I mean, it was just literally like.
And Zane Lowe's a great interview too, not to diss him, but I just felt that day that was the first one he did, and clearly Kanye just had a platform that he was trying to express. So sometimes we get caught up in that and Elliott, your interviews aren't as good as this. And I'm like, just because I'm not trying to insult the artist and they just black out on me, that doesn't make a great interview. So I think a full exchange of it is the Wayne thing where it's like, I think that's the greatest pure interview of the Crown series. Mm-hmm. But Drake was phenomenal because it was all the circumstances surrounding it. And it was like the album was about to come out. I feel like he was the hottest guy in the game at that moment. I feel he's the hottest right now still. But that was the moment. The timing was perfect. And he was just so charged, he was amped by the crowd, and I felt like he ran over me. You know what I mean? I felt there was times where I literally kind of just felt like, where am I at? I felt like his energy was so strong, he ran over me. I said that. It's funny because we walk up the thing, and he's amped and he's excited. He's like, yeah, this was great. He's tapped me on the back. He's like, you feel good? You feel good? I was like, you was great. I was all right. But then we went and partied after. We went to Kevin Durant had this birthday party, so we all partied. But I was just kind of shell shocked. But I mean, people loved it. I felt it's hard for me to even look at. It's like fight tapes and shit. I can't even look back. So I felt like there's definitely moments where it's especially with the Crown thing because of the live audience, it's scary.
Let people know, you didn't even let people know.
Crown is
in your intro about Crown.
Yeah, Crown is a live interview series. So it started with South by Southwest. I did a thing with Kendrick, and it was gonna be just a regular keynote interview situation. But what I noticed when I did it, when I got there, a lot of the fans were already lined up, young fans I didn't really even know during South by Southwest in Austin. And some of them knew me from the Truth series and knew who I was and Rap Radar, and I brought them stickers and all that. And I was just it was good youthful energy, and we had this great conversation, and the fans were engaged, and I was like, this is cool. This doesn't feel like a boring panel. We've all been invited to these panels, and it's terrible, and it's new music seminar type shit. It just doesn't work. But I felt different type of energy, so I was I told Jesse Kirschbaum.
Shout out to Jesse.
Yeah, shout out to Jesse from the new agency. He was my partner in this from day one. I was I think I could do this. I think we could do this and we could sell tickets. And I think people would pay to see me interview people. Mm-hmm. And I just thought Tyler the Creator, because Tyler was coming out with an album. I like Tyler a lot, and nobody really sees the other side of Tyler. And I feel if I could get him to take the process seriously and engage it, and I also know that he's such a monster on social media like myself. He's gonna push it. He's gonna tell his fans, buy the tickets, come see it. He's gonna push it like me. And we sold it out like real fast, and I was shocked by that, and it was just like a game changer. And then we did it. So we did it, and it's like he comes out, and his fans are just like so excited, they're throwing bacon at him and cereal, and I'm like, how am I going to settle him down and do this interview?
This was a highlight.
I did.
Right?
It was a highlight.
Yeah.
And then he settled down. We had a great interview, and I was like, this is something. And then right after I did that, or even before I did Tyler, Ebe had hit me about J. Cole, like, we want to do it with J. Cole when his album's about to come out. So I had started thinking about the new generation, and I was like, this is a great way for me to like connect to a Tyler, or Wale, or J. Cole, or Drake. And then while I was doing each one, Drake had reached out after I did the J. Cole, like, am I going to get a crown? I'm like, of course you're going to get a crown. Like, what are you talking about? Like, so, it just became its own thing, and it continues to grow now. Like, it's definitely like, out of all the brands I've done, I say it all the time, it's like I've never seen a brand just get that embraced, like, more universally out the gate. I think everything you do, they always doubt you first a little more. Like, how you gonna do Rap Radar? How you gonna take over Double XL? How you gonna? But Crown, like, it just connected people. Like, wow, this is cool. This is. Well, dope. I think it was the timing of it too. It worked out,
and a big reason too, man, is it's something that kind of was not done before, especially in that capacity.
Well, to be fair, Peter Rosenberg was doing it in a different way with Noisemakers, but I knew I knew that. But he wasn't selling.
He turned that into like a concert series or something, right? Maybe?
A little bit. No, I'm not sure, but I know he wasn't emphasizing as much the selling of tickets out the gate.
Okay.
Because he did it with the 92 Ys. They have a certain audience that they're already engulfed
down in Tribeca.
Down in Tribeca. So he did some of that, but I knew that the vision to me was to focus on the new generation more so. And he was trying to do more of the legends. And I respect the legends, but my thing is I'm more interested at my age of my career to connect to the new generation, the new superstars of this era, and connect to them. So my mind was of Kendrick and Drake and Wale and those kind of guys. So
speaking of that,
kind of made it different.
Who are you feeling right now the most? The most, let's say.
Are we gonna have the Drake Kendrick debate all day?
Oh man, I'm Kendrick all day on that.
I saw him the other day too, going to the studio.
I just saw him at he was performing with SZA the other day out in LA. Yeah. Well. Let's actually reframe that as to like who are we going to expect to see in hardcover?
We don't know yet, honestly. I mean, the thing is now it's like we have a lot of rough ideas, but we almost look at it like we're securing the budget, whatever it's going to be, whatever money we end up raising. Like go to hardcover, go to Kickstarter.
The Kickstarter is fully funded, right?
It's fully funded, but we're going to set a new stretch goal. We're now at like 30,000 was in this. Well, actually, I'll take you the whole process. First did it with crazy. We set like a pledge goal like $150,000, and we only raised like 12. So it was like, okay, this is not working. This doesn't work. Like we got to build this small and big. So we scrapped it, relaunched it, and we raised like 30,000 in like 5 days.
Wow.
And then now we have a stretch goal we're going to announce on Monday. Well, I guess by this time it'll be like 50,000 or so, and try to get to that and show people that we'll print more copies and pay people more based off more. So the goal is you raise as much as you can. The thing is different between Indiegogo. Is it Indiegogo? What do you call it?
Yeah, Indiegogo.
Indiegogo and Kickstarter is Indiegogo. Whatever money you raise, you get to keep.
Yeah.
Kickstarter, you don't keep anything unless you raise your pledge level, your initial pledge level. So we did it low to like make sure we could secure that amount, and that's the minimal of what we could do. But there's no limit to it. The goal is, after we made the mistake of not doing it that way, the goal is to raise as much money as we can and show people their belief in it. So. We want to raise the money, secure it, and then like have an editorial meeting. My wife Danielle, Benjamin Meadows Ingram, who works at MySpace, he's an intricate part of it, and just other editors we're going to recruit and just really come up with what really documents culture right now, and have that big issue plan meeting and argue about ideas. And I'm looking forward to that. So it's like right now we're like in the publisher phase of like raising the funds, and then we get to have fun and have a big meeting. So I think the funding ends in the end of June. So I think by the 4th of July, we'll be able to really sit down and hash out an issue plan. And the goal is to get it out in November.
Okay, November. And then is it just going to be mainly music based?
No, that's the beauty of me working with my wife for the first time.
Yeah, because I was going to say, your wife is, I mean, she does know a ton about music. But, but she's in other spaces as
Exactly. Well. She has a great political website called The Smithian on Tumblr that has like over 100,000 followers. Yeah. So I think that's what you get. You get this more of a unique perspective, a broader perspective of culture from my wife than from me, where I'm more like super hip hop machine nerd. And like, so it's going to be a melding of those different viewpoints. And I think that's what's going to make it interesting. And trying to speak to the new generation and empowering people of color to like create a magazine with different races that really reflects the world that we're in now. Like we're still fighting these old ass fucking dusty paradigms that don't really reflect what's going on in culture right now. Like I said, back then Sasha, with Ego Trip, we saw what was going on in culture, and the magazine reflected that. And I think a lot of these mainstream magazines or periodicals and newspapers you read don't really reflect America right now and how it really looks. And I think that Danielle has great passion about that area even more than I do. And I think the book is going to be unique in that aspect in terms of like being more, being as potent in music, but then in culture outside of that also.
That's incredible, man. I'm so looking forward to it. And also, another question for you: How is it working with your significant other? I gotta ask. How is
Are you
that?
booed up? You married?
I'm not.
Okay.
I'm not.
No, it's a challenge because, I mean, it's great mostly. It's great. It's exhilarating. It's stressful because in this case, we're really putting ourselves out there. Like, that's what's funny about it. It's like, it's not like we're working together behind the scenes. We're working together in front of everybody. Like, we're out here trying to get money and support. And so it's like,
reality shows.
Yeah, you're living up to reality show. Nah. We shot some stuff for that. That was terrible.
Okay.
And that breaks everybody up. Even like T.I. and Tiny have problems now. Like, I hope they can work it out. All respect to them, the Harrises. I think reality shows are bad for relationships, obviously. But yeah, it's like, it's exciting, but this initially was my wife's idea. Hardcover, she came up with the name. She's in a Stanford Night Fellowship program, and this is like her big project that she came up with at the end. And when she started explaining to me the vision, and when she came up with the name, I was like, I'm in. This is dope. I like the name. I get it. I want to do my part. This is finally the right thing for us to work together on, because we've tried to figure out what the right thing is for years, and this finally feels right. The timing feels right. So it's great, but it's stressful because you want to win, and everything we're doing is out there. But I think, again, the fun part is going to be now, once we get the money, to go back and do what we do best, which is write, edit, and the fun part. And pick photos and assign articles and do things, that part that we can do in our sleep, and like enjoy ourselves working together in that way. But I kind of defer to her. Like I think we're both great. I think in partnerships, obviously, there's times when you have to be number one, and there's times when you have to play number two. And I have no problem playing number two at times to Danielle, because I think she's brilliant and a great editor, and she taught me a lot about editing from the past. And I think it's a great partnership for me to have in terms of like creating this product. If we weren't married, I'd be blessed to be able to work with her. So I think it's going to be great.
Dope, man. One thing, Elliott, that you strike me as you are very much a sort of like teacher and lead by example to a lot of young up-and-coming creators, writers, journalists.
Thank you, brother.
But another thing, man, you seem like you're still, no matter your age, no matter what, man, you're a student of the game, man. Like, and you pay attention to so many things, and I'm sure you're an avid reader. So what? First, talk about the importance of still being a student, and then just like, if you could drop some info on, what books you're reading, or what things that you think other people should be reading, you know what I mean, to just give a little insight on where
I think my in-tuneness stems from my competitiveness. I want to be looked at as the best right now. I don't want to be looked at as the best of. I mean, I want to be looked at as the best of all time. I call myself the GOAT. I want to be looked at the greatest, but also, more importantly, in our culture, I want to be viewed as like doing it good right now, like in that conversation. So I just look at everything that much as I get my hands on. I think that I live a lot more on the internet now. Honestly, like I'm constantly like on Twitter, on Instagram, searching for content. Trying to be on top of. I feel like I have this responsibility almost, that the hip-hop culture feels that I should be the curator, that I have to be on top of everything. Like, when something big happens in the culture, and I may be away for a second, everyone's in my inbox like, what's going on, Elliott? You late to this? Or what you think about that? Or what happened with that? So,
I can't take a vacation.
Yeah, it's almost like a doctor. Like, I'm always on call. So it's hard to really sit back and read a book. But I know the wife's pushing me to read the 4-Hour Work Week and stuff like that.
Tim Ferriss.
Yeah, to read that. I'm trying to read that. We're going to try to go on vacation soon. I'll try to really engulf myself in that. But I just try to just soak up inspiration. And again, I just think it also just comes a lot from the music. A lot of the bravado and the editorials, I would take people's lyrics and kind of like, if a lyric in a song kind of I feel is braggadocious in a way that kind of I can relate to and almost can fit my life in a certain aspect of what I do, then I'll like use that wording or change the wording a little bit to reflect me. And that's kind of where the skeleton of the XXL editorial style came from. Yeah. And I think people see me do that in social media. So I just think that really my biggest inspiration is just trying to take the time to listen to everything. And it's a challenge in that now because there's just so much shit that comes out. I have a good young dude, Andre Blair, that helps keep me on point, and he's constantly sending me retransfers of shit. If I haven't downloaded everything, it's like so much shit comes out, and like a lot of it isn't good. Some of it's good, but it's just flooded. And it's like I try my best. So a lot of times I may say something braggadocious or tweet something out, and it may be a fucking Migos lyric, but nobody listened to like track 17 off the mixtape. So it's like I feel like that's still my biggest thing, where it's like I try to literally live in the music in a certain aspect of it because it inspires me. It motivates me. Like, and that's why people then sometimes say like I write like a rapper, or I think I'm a rapper, or I have that certain bravado or confidence. I mean, that's what hip hop is. Hip hop is the boldness of getting in front of that microphone, like any type of performer, and telling your story. Like that's as much of a ego thing as anything, and I think that my job is to tell my story and tell the stories of the audience's heroes and the guys that are really impacting culture, because this is what we're all invested in. We're all in it. So I think that really just the backbone is still the music. I'll try to use sports or books, different things, or watch wrestling sometimes, or things like that, to kind of zone out and not get so caught up in it. But at the end of the day, I'm still just drawn to it. And now, like with my connection to social media, making sure that I stay in tune and I approach it from a way of like curating and providing a hip hop like experience, whether you're following me on Twitter, whether you're following me on Instagram, whether you're going to Rap Radar every day. Like, I think I have to do more. Crown gives you one aspect of the culture. Like, all these different things that I do is one extension of that. So I feel the responsibility to kind of uphold that, and if I have the hot hand, how to keep the hot hand.
Man. Wrapping up a little bit, what do you know now at this stage?
Wait, I'm gonna tell you something. I might get exclusive.
Okay.
Keep It Thorough was a radio show I was doing on EVR. EVR, they're about to shut down. So I stopped doing the show. I did it for 2 years. So it's basically a 2-hour show where I get to pick the music. I try to lean more towards the new stuff, or maybe play like certain sets that fit whatever's going on in the culture that week, and have guests and do great interviews. So I scrapped the show, but now I'm gonna do it. I'm doing a 2-hour special after Summer Jam. I don't know when this is gonna air, but it'll probably be online. I'm doing a 2-hour special for Sirius XM. I'm trying to bring the show to Hip Hop Nation. I'm getting an opportunity to do that. We just confirmed that. So
congrats, man. See,
that's another aspect too. That's another aspect too. Like, and I like that outlet. I want to learn how to do radio. Like Angela Yee, I sat in when she was doing the show at Shade 45, and she told me I had a laugh, and then DJ Wonder did his drop of my laugh, and it's like now everybody's talking about my laugh. Like, I didn't know I had a fucking laugh, and like I think there's things I'm learning to do, and certain strengths I have already as a radio personality. And I want to get better. I want the challenge of that. I want to learn how to do it better. And I think that Sirius, hopefully we can work it out that I can do it on a consistent basis.
Yeah, that'll be dope, man. What have you learned? What do you know now that you wish you would have known initially, starting off, or not even initially, but earlier in your career? You know what I mean? What are some of those important things that you're like?
It's funny because I had one of my I don't have a trainer right now, but like one of my first trainers, this guy Ray, he moved to Atlanta. He's like, you know what made me move to Atlanta? He's like, the thing you said to me one day, and I'm like, what did I say to you? He's like, how you regretted that you didn't buy property when you was like in your 20s. Like, and I was like, he's like, as soon as I realized that I had money back, I bought my place in Atlanta. I'm moving to Atlanta. I'm like, you're fucking crazy. And he moved to Atlanta, and he's like, has been making a good career for himself. So I always tell people that, like, I feel like sometimes when you're younger and you're in your 20s and you start to finally make real money, you don't necessarily want to feel like you shouldn't live a real life yet. Like, you shouldn't buy like real furniture. So you buy the janky couch because you don't want to have the real couch because you think someone's gonna like me or marry me. I'm gonna have a girlfriend or something. So if I'm single, I'm not gonna invest in those things. I'm gonna waste my money. I'm gonna party. I'm gonna do, I'm not gonna do real life decision shit. I'm not gonna buy, but so I should have done that when I was in my 20s. Like when I started making money at the source and those type of things. I should have saved money. I should have bought property. So those are the things I learned. Like, take advantage of your 20s and like take advantage of not having that responsibility, because you're gonna have that one day. You're gonna have a wife. You're gonna maybe have kids. So take advantage of those things, and when you start making money, be smarter about your money. I'm still battling that because I want to live a good life. You know what I mean? So I challenge myself, like, I'll make it back, but it's like now I'm responsible. I have a family. Me and my wife, we're in it together. We're not promised anything. Like, I go so hard because no one's guaranteed shit. We went through the whole economic, fucking dive that we went through, and we're slowly getting our heads back above water. So life is real. So when you start really making money, you know, and whatever you do, that's my biggest advice is definitely invest in things and make adult decisions earlier, and don't wait for don't wait for circumstances to dictate that. Step out and do that, you know.
Man, that's so it's
that's what
great that you said that, man, because
yeah.
that's kind of like it's very poignant to what's going on in my life right now. I'm in the process of, like, you know, transitioning and like being able to have other opportunities come, and I'm just like the first thing I was thinking about with my friends when we were talking about this sort of stage is like, man, we should like buy houses, you know, like once things start really moving, like it doesn't make sense to just continue to just be like living in these apartments or moving into a nicer apartment and all this stuff. It's like, yeah, man.
No, it's just because nobody tells us that. Nobody tells us how to pay taxes. Nobody tells. Like, you look at all these entertainers; they still like we all learn this. Like, we don't learn it. Wasn't taught. We're not taught this in school. How to deal with success, how to deal with money, how to deal with managing money, how to deal with ownership and those type of things. And for you to really succeed in life, you're gonna have to go through those steps. Yeah. So I mean, as much as you could try to educate yourself or stay committed to that from an earlier age, the better results are going to be. So, you know, I think that's not to get all real and
that's what the podcast
but it relates to the culture. It relates to the culture, man. I mean, you see it all the time. It relates to our culture because, you know, hip hop is us like going against the grain and building something when nobody thought we could, and we're becoming these businessmen. You know, we're businessmen. You're a businessman. I'm a businessman. Just because, you know, I may have a shirt now, but I'm not wearing a tie, you know, or a blazer. We're businessmen. You know, and at the end of the day, it's like, we're not taught these lessons. We learn, it's trial by fire. So at the end of the day, it's like, if I could give somebody advice like that, and my brother, you know, Trainer Ray took it and he did that and built his life, then that's advice I'd probably give the most in terms of regretting things I could have did, you know, more on my own.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. So let the people know where they can, most importantly, donate and support
we're going until the end of June. I think it's June. My wife's birthday is the 23rd. I think the campaign ends the 25th, June 25th.
Okay.
So yeah, we reached our initial pledge goal of $30,000, but we're trying to raise as much money as possible. I promise you, every cent will go into creation. More copies will be printed. We'll make sure we're going to pay writers, photographers. There's no free labor. Too much internet culture. We have to not be able to pay our writers and photographers. Everyone's going to get paid. You know, maybe a little less than their rate because we're a baby book. We're just coming out the gate. But, you know, we want to treat people with respect. So, yeah, we're trying to raise as much money as possible. Go to Kickstarter.com. Look at hardcover. Type in HRDCVR. No vowels. HRDCVR. Hardcover. Watch the video of me and my wife. Read up about it. We got some great articles. You know, thank you for having me here. We've done a lot of press about it to try to explain the message to people that don't understand. And we're just amazed by the feedback we've had so far, and surprised and excited and happy that we learned from the mistakes of the initial launch, and happy that, you know, to a special shout out to all the people. I think we have about over 200 backers right now so far. You know, high and low, and every from $1 to $10,000, and the people that can give that level, we really appreciate it, man. It's a challenge to then do great work, and we're inspired to do that. So thank you.
And where can people catch up with you on social media?
I live on social media, man. Media Bistro did a great thing calling me the hip hop authority on social media. I appreciate that.
Wow.
A woman, I think her name is Jan Day Wilson. I hope I didn't mess it up. Same last name. She's not my cousin, I promise. Media Bistro, so shout out to her. But yeah, I mean, if you know me, I'm heavy on internet. I'm heavy on social media. My Twitter is Elliott Wilson. That's ELLIOTT. That's 2 L's and 2 T's. Wilson. And my Instagram, same name, Elliott Wilson. I'm big on that too. And rapradar.com. That's still my foundation. That's my website.
I go there every day.
Thank you, sir. Shout out to Brian B. Miller. He's the capo, big homie. And Don't Hate Be Hated. Those are the core. Those are the 4 horsemen of the Rap Radar thing. My man Ty Kid from some guy named Ty Kid. He keeps changing his name from Chi-Town. He contributes to Dark Knight. Other guys down with the movement. Appreciate all you love Rap Radar. Paul Rosenberg, my partner in it. Just excited by that and to continue to grow.
Awesome. All right, guys. Well, you know what it is.
Yeah, I made it. I'm on Jabari's podcast, son.
There it is. Oh, man.
Your Sunday was right. You know what I'm saying? It's all the education you need right there, yo.
There it is. All that knowledge has been dropped once again on the Words with Friends podcast. Thank you guys for listening. Leave comments in the iTunes store, SoundCloud.com/Jabari. Everything from me. Twitter.com, Instagram @Jabari. And and like I said, if you guys are enjoying the podcast, go to Patreon.com.
I'm doing that as soon as I get to my laptop. top, son.
And support with as little as $1 per podcast to keep it going. All right,
do it, man. Support the things that you believe in, man. Support this culture, baby.
Absolutely. All right, guys. Talk to you next week. Peace.